Hey, I'm Owen Downie, I'm a bass player from Melbourne.
How old were you when you first started playing bass and why?
Probably year 7, because my sister got one and I had to outdo her. I just nicked her bass.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, cool.
And it eventually became mine.
Still got it?
No, it's the only bass I've ever sold, actually. Everything else I've kept. Oh, wait, that and some other horrible Warwick that I got rid of at some stage. But, yeah.
Cool. So what was the first moment when you thought, I want to play bass properly?
That's a good question. I don't know if I've ever kind of seen it like that. I never
You didn't have a moment?
took it on as this is a skill I'm going to learn. It was always a social thing. It was we're all just playing, and we all play instruments. We swapped all the time. Like, I started on cello, so I kind of naturally went towards that side of things more so than the pianos or guitars that were going around. But yeah, I mean, we were all swapping all the time, but
Yeah.
bass just seemed to fit best.
And then you decided to go and study?
Yeah, well, at the end of school, I was gonna go do an arts degree, and I wanted to chuck on music as a bit of a side thing because I loved it. And I was actually in two minds about whether I'd go and do it on guitar or do it on bass. It was kind of a 50-50 split at that stage, and just went for it on bass, and I'm really glad I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Cool. What was your first bass and amp?
First bass was a Court Action bass. Well, my sister's first bass was a Court Action bass.
Yeah.
It was red, so it was fast. It was awesome. I played through an old pig nose amp that my dad had since the 70s, which was a total mutant. Like, it had been in a car crash, and it was a combo, but Dad had kind of taken it out of the wreckage and chopped it all up, so it was this bizarre head and speaker thing. And he relined it with leather he stole from the couch and everything. So that was like my first amp, playing this action bass through the thing, and it distorted really nicely. It wasn't designed for it. It was great. Yeah. And first real bass amp I got was a Fender Bassman 100, which I lined up from 4 AM one morning at Eastgate Music to get when they had it on special.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Cool. Who would you say is the most influential person in your development as a player?
Oh.
If there is any.
Yeah, that's tough.
You say it's more of a collective thing?
Yeah, I couldn't narrow it down. It has a lot to do with songs and bands, and I mean, if I had to say people, it'd probably be parents, because I just grew up in a house that was filled with music. So when I was in primary school, my mum was doing postgraduate study in a cappella music in Australia. Yeah. So I grew up listening to her pumping all these incredible a cappella groups around the house. Dad loved Carole King, Van Morrison, Cat Stevens, James Taylor, all that stuff. Right. And that was what I was playing. My dad had heaps of guitars. He'd make his own instruments all the time. And Mum was an incredible classical pianist as well. Yeah, cool. So those guys just constantly had music going all the time. Like, when we would eat dinner together, there'd be music playing. You know, like when I would get home from work, they'd put on music. So if I had to narrow it down to anyone, it would be them, just because they put the settings in place. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, to love music and understand it.
Cool. So then, what was the first bass-related song or album that made you go, wow?
That's a really good question.
You know, like when you hear something, you go, is that the bass? I want to do that, or...
That might have been Headhunters by Herbie Hancock, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. It's a tough one. I could change my mind in 10 seconds on that.
A few, right? I mean...
Yeah. I mean, it could have been Korn's Follow the Leader. It could have been Oscar Peterson.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Because my dad loved the Night Train album. Oscar Peterson, Ray Brown, and that is amazing. And it's a tough one. I'll give you a different answer every second you ask me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Can you give us like a couple of your top like warm up or like, exercises that you do?
Oh, I'm not particularly pious about any of them, but I mean anything that gets all your fingers moving and crossing the strings is good. Just, you know, basic chromatic scale.
Yeah.
Just to kind of, yeah, get it all going.
Yeah.
What else?
Arpeggios or chord and stuff? Not so much.
Well, I suppose the musical stuff happens in your brain or elsewhere. In terms of just actually physically warming up the hands, it's just about getting them moving for me. Yeah, it depends what I'm doing. I mean, if I'm going into like a really slap heavy thing, then I'll be trying to, something like that, trying to get that going. Yeah, I mean, there's a few little, you know, finger push-up exercises, you know, that John Patitucci's spider thing, which is great. There's all the, you know, all that stuff, which is great for just getting the blood to the end of the fingers and all that.
But you don't have like a set, pick up my bass and I do these.
No, I'm not that kind of guy.
What would you say are the most important qualities for a good bass player?
Ears.
Ears.
Yeah, I mean, any instrument, ears. Like, have everything else, but without that, it's kind of a bit useless.
Yeah. There's that great Bernard Edwards quote, came up, like, done some gig, came off stage, and the reporter goes, "Man, great gig, how do you think you played?" And he goes, "I have no idea, I was too busy listening to the rest of the band."
Man, what a guy. I was seeing some Chic concert I've got on DVD. It's like 1995, back when Slash from Guns N' Roses was a professional sit-in with everyone player. Like, that was his gig. And so he turned up at some point and whatever, you know.
Guns N' Roses finished, I'm going to do stuff.
Bernard Edwards, as the concert's going on, he's not looking too good, and he was sitting down on the stage for like the last half of it. He ended up passing away a few days later. That was like his last thing he ever played, and it was literally a few days before he died.
I thought it was like right after that gig.
Yeah, it was right after that gig. I don't remember the exact time, but he was funky as hell right up to the hilt.
His pocket is just unbelievable.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing.
What's your current gear setup?
This guy's Old Faithful. He does most of the work. It's a Tony Franklin P bass. So it's a P with a J. Bridge needs a bit of work. Sorry about that. And this guy is my good friend because I spent so much time on 5 strings in high school, trying to be a new metal superstar. I really got used to that lower range, so this is really handy. I highly recommend it. I usually run this through a Mark bass or an Aguila tone hammer. Both different sounds, but depending on what the gig is, you know. And then that normally just goes into a 210 cabinet. Sometimes that gets bigger, but most of the time I don't need it. I mean, I only need it for foldback. The venue's got the sound side of it covered. I sometimes use pedals, depending on whether it's required. And I've just got the standard kind of stuff there, like compressor and some, a little bit of that. I've got this wild multi-wave distortion pedal which kind of quacks out a bit. There's an auto wire in there as well. A nice little tube drive thing, an octave pedal. Yeah. Sometimes delay if I'm feeling selfish, you know. but that's rare. I'm not a purist or anything. I'm lazy.
Whatever gets the job done.
Yeah, exactly. And this gets the job done.
What do you wish you were better at doing as a bass player?
Oh, you'll run out of film. Yeah, I mean it's it's always moving and changing. Like, and I think it depends a lot on how pessimistic or optimistic you are. Like, and at any given time. But I mean, at the moment I'm enjoying getting back in touch with a lot of my jazz language. So that's kind of happening. I spent a lot of time de-jazzing. I wanted to de-jazz. I was doing all these rock and pop sessions, and it sounded way too jazz. It wasn't hip at all. So
Pendulum effect.
now I suppose. All right. Here's the answer to the question: getting better at changing hats more effectively. So going, okay, this is the jazz moment, this is the rock moment, this is the funk moment, and being able to switch between them rather than just being on this default setting of, this is the only thing I can play at right now.
Okay.
Well, that's probably it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. What would you say you love most about the Melbourne music scene and the community here?
Oh, that's such high standard. It's incredible. You get your ass kicked by everyone all the time. So many amazing players from here, and then people who travel to here because of that. Yeah. And they bring with them, an incredible sense of passion and experience as well. And so that's a huge part of it. The diversity is amazing. I love the number of different little scenes that are going on in Melbourne all the time.
Whatever you're into this year.
Yeah, exactly. And Melbourne is not immune to the trends all over the world in terms of live music going through rough patches here and there, but it's a healthy scene. There's a lot of people out there who are doing really good things and a huge community of people who are supporting it. So that's something a lot of cities don't have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.